Welcome back to the REI Agent. My guest today is Bree Hartman, founder of Self-Storage School, where she helps aspiring investors confidently break into the self-storage industry. What makes Bree's story so relatable is she was not born into real estate or self-storage. Just a few years ago, she knew nothing about buying storage facilities and was asked the same question many beginners ask today. Less than 12 months later, she purchased her first self-storage facility, and now she is passionate about helping others shorten that learning curve. Through Self-Storage School, Bree teaches investors, emphasizes action over theory, and if you were ever curious about self-storage or wonder why so many investors are making the switch, you're going to love this conversation. Bree, welcome to the REI Agent Podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like our conversation already, like before this, it's been bomb. It's been great.
I know I should just record from as soon as we get in and just see what happens and surprise people.
I am so excited to be here. This is gonna be really fun.
Yeah, Bree. So what industry were you in before? What got you into looking into self-storage to begin with?
Yeah. So I like to say I was a mom with a phone. And I think what's interesting is I feel like I've had 9 lives, like everyone else, right? Like I'm older, I would say in my late 30s, and I'm not this young chicken that's 22 right now, I'm getting into real estate. And so I was a W-2 employee. So I live in Sacramento, California, and worked for Fish and Wildlife for 7 years and did the whole cubicle life. And just realized I was just suffocating. And so from there, I actually started a gym, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out there, start a business. Like everyone says, entrepreneurship is the best thing. And really quickly, I learned that there was just a lot of work, like 60 hours a week on other people's time to get very, very little money and no vacation. And so when I got pregnant with my little girl, I think that was my big shift, my big just wake up call. I had, I laugh about it, one accidental rental. And I was like, this is going to be the vehicle. I'll own 20 of these and passive income. And then really soon I realized oh, hey, there's toilets, there's tenants, there's all these issues like service dogs in California. And so I kind of was like, gosh, I got to think bigger and better. What else is out there? And actually, on a podcast, I heard one day, people talk about self-storage, and they're like, hey, no toilets, no tenants, no employees, less issues. And I'm like, sign me up. So I know that's a really quick snapshot, but honestly, I think ignorance is beautifully blissful, and wanting a life that's bigger and better. And it's how do we not work harder? How do we work smarter right now? And then go out there and go do it, right? Instead of just talk about it. Talk is cheap. So that's really long story short, that's how I got into self-storage, was that one accidental rental that led into, wow, okay, how do I buy commercial real estate? How do I buy commercial real estate and a business, which is self-storage? And that was my big asset class that I really wanted to go after.
Do you still have that accidental rental?
I do. Actually, I was I got 2 or 3 now. And I don't love them, but here and there, I think it is a good little play. You know what I mean? So I do still have that accidental rental. It actually is across the street from where I live now. Okay. So it's easy. It's in my vicinity, hands down.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's one of the things I like about syndications, and if anybody listens to the show for a while, they'll know that I kind of preach about syndications a little bit. Not that they're it's always going to work, get rich quick. You don't have to do anything, but it's a way you can diversify your real estate holdings, which if you're a realtor, if you're a real estate designated professional, real estate makes a lot of sense to own for taxes, for wealth creation. You can use that money that comes in now. You don't have to wait until you're retired. But I think that's one of the benefits of it, is that you can have different things. And if you do only own single family or whatever apartments in your area, I mean, that's very narrow scope of real estate. And that's going to be very obviously market dependent on that. If one law changes, you talked about, California laws are very tenant friendly. That can impact your whole portfolio. So it makes a ton of sense to have some diversification for sure. And self-storage is definitely it's a popular one. It's a one that is definitely, for good reason, that a lot of people I know are excited about.
Yeah. And I feel I guess for you, have you ever rented a unit in self-storage, in your lifetime?
I have not, actually.
Okay. No, that's fair. And weird? So it's interesting because I went to the statistics, went to the Googles, right? And they say it's 1 in 8 people rent storage in their lifetime. And that could be in an up market, a down market, or a sideways market. But I really think that, we're in America, we're in a consumerism economy. And so as real estate, like you live in DC, like as real estate goes up and density is high, it's like, how do you move your things out? And so what a lot of people do is they move stuff into storage, and they've been using storage as the easy button for many, many years. And it's only going to continue like that. And so I think it's just very fascinating, because in self-storage, I think why for sure I got into it was that it's like, how do you have a simple, boring business and commercial real estate? And that was kind of the self-storage umbrella. And so being able, I think, to scale, right, remotely. And so for me, I live in California. I actually don't own a storage facility in California. I buy all of mine, in the South, or even in the Carolinas and Tennessee, and we run them all remotely managed. And so I was like, what is an asset class can I do that with, right? And then how can I own 15 to 18 of these facilities and work from home, right? And have that, time with my 4-year-old girl. And so I think in that regards is people get excited about boutique hotels right now. It's like all the rage. If you go on Instagram and all the social medias, and I'm like, that sounds like just chaos to me. Like, everyone has their own little favorite thing, but I want something that doesn't have to do with hospitality. I want a boring subscription-based business. And that's what self-storage is like, we are in like the industry and space to rent space. Literally, like we rent air. It's like a concrete floor, cinder block building, roll up doors, and no lights and no toilets. And so that to me, I think feels very, easy and successful, is to have those slow mornings and not worry about, do I have hospitality issues or a lizard coming into my, room and I have to like give money back. And I don't know, it's just a very different, interesting world out there now in this space. And so, yeah, and expense ratios. And so I think people get really interested about this really fast, but self-storage and in industrial, we have one of the lower expense ratios, which is around an average of 35 to 40% expenses, versus multifamily right now is 50 to 58%. And then in hotels, they're at 60 to 68%. So just seeing that, you've just got more room to cash flow and more room, I always say, for stupidity. So that's something that I really enjoy as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I know that it can be challenging to find deals that pencil. Now, I worked with a client that was very into self-storage. They came from they own another business, but they wanted to invest in self-storage. And through that process, we looked at multiple deals. None of them penciled out. And there was a lot of people accepting cash, so that their books didn't reflect the full profit. Yeah. And then you're just supposed to take their word for it. That kind of thing that's happening. So I guess that leads me to the question, how does one go about finding deals that actually make sense? Yeah.
And so, kind of like even like how I teach in self-storage school. So you've got 2 ways, well, 3 ways really, but you've got on market deals where, especially as real estate agent investors, that's where people take those deals to on market, LoopNet or Craxies of the world. And those are the ones that are highly competitive. Right now it's true. People want over asking prices, and they're willing to put it on there and trying to get it. We call it the silly money of the world. And obviously there's great deals out there. There's just more competition, right? It's just more people attracted to it and eyeballs on it. And so how I kind of teach in the self-storage school is to get really, really good at looking for those off-market deals, right? And building relationships with owners. And so we are in this, silver tsunami, like no matter how you want to look at it, it's like we got baby boomers that are wanting to retire. And it's like high net worth individuals to high net worth individuals. And so being able to go out there in these markets, like not think like Public Storage and Cube Smarts in these first or second tier markets, where are markets that are still growing, that are on these outskirts, right? That we don't have to compete with. So finding these off-market properties in these, areas that are still growing, that have mom and pop, that are unsophisticated. Those are the ones that I truly like to target, because I build relationships with them. And then most of them, like we're doing 2 seller financing deals this month, closing on like a $1.5 million property that will be a seller financing deal with 3% interest only for 7 years. So these are the parts that it's like, how do we think creatively when, yes, most of the world will skip the, hey, nothing's penciling, so move on, right? Shiny object syndrome, to, hey, how can we find these gems, and then see how we can take a good deal to a great deal and cash flow it. So a little bit, that's kind of my secret sauce, is I was a mom with a phone that no one wanted to talk to me. Like I was like, and no one wanted to talk to me. And so I got really, really good at calling off-market storage properties and having just real conversations with them. And then being at the very end, like, hey, would you ever consider an offer, right, on their property? And that's when the light bulb kind of went off, and I got really good at negotiating these deals. And then people wanted to talk to me and partner. So, I think the secret sauce is going back, like, again, going back to the basics. It's the basics of real estate. Like, where are these good deals? And real estate agents, I know that's a lot of people, are on this podcast and listen. And it's like, you guys have the best skill set possible, like calling people, having conversations, and not doing all this AI agent reach out and stuff and items, which is cool, but it's like, how do we get back to the basics to do more of that?
Yeah, 100%. So I can never miss an opportunity here to plug the CRM that we are offering, because it is 100% with what you just described, and it would work really well for these as well. But it is forward based, so you got your family, occupation, recreation, dreams. You track that in each contact, so you're systematically talking to people and trying to learn these things about them by asking good questions related to these things that they care about. And then when you follow back up with them, you're able to remember these things as well. And I think right now we are all probably starting to feel, I feel like there's like this, like we're kind of getting over this hump where people are starting to get sick and tired of AI a little bit. And if you sense that it's fake, if you sense that it's being generated by AI, so if it's an email, if it's whatever, you're just kind of immediately turned off, or I think a lot of people are. And if you get into like the texting stuff, or if you get into like the faking your voice and trying to be, this fake AI agent person, I just think that people sense it. And I'm not saying there's no success there, but I think that we are in a relationship business, both of us, right? And I think that it's something that you should treat like gold, and you don't want to kill that off by trying to do less or get fancy.
Right. No, I hear you. And I know we were talking about, because that is something that, because people come to me all the time and they're like, hey, Bree, like, how are you finding these off-market properties? And so if you want me to, I can kind of show you guys, like, how do you find like self-storage properties? And this is something that you guys can do today, because I think that's the biggest part, is like action, right? Like it's less fluff, like more action is very something I preach. And so before I can like share my screen, and especially for like even like real estate agents, like you guys are gonna crush this. I wish I knew this sooner, but what you think about is, okay, if you want to buy a storage facility and look for these mom and pop facilities that are unsophisticated, I call it the market rule of fives. And so in self-storage school, we talk about, okay, how do we not compete with the REITs, which are these public storages, CubeSmarts of the world, where everyone's like, oh, there's storage on every corner. I'm like, yeah, because you're looking in these first or second tier markets. And then the second thing I want you guys to think about is these third and fourth tier markets are areas that they're growing, right? They're areas where people are fleeing, right? These big areas like Atlanta, Georgia, like there's so much traffic. Same thing with Dallas. Like they're going into these outskirts, and roads are being built and data centers are being formed. And so normally these are between, 5,000 people to about 120,000 people in population. Like that's a good sweet spot to start at, right? And then the third thing is, okay, people have to have money, right, to buy storage or to pay their, every single month. So make it easy, right? Because that's the goal in business. And so a medium household income of $50,000 is really a sweet spot. And then my last little part to this is, being able to find those properties or cities that have areas that are growing just by even 0.1%. So I just want you guys to keep in mind when I open up the screen, and then we're going to look for the last part to this. The fifth one is facilities that either don't have a website, or they're facilities that have a website that's like GoDaddy.com, or one that was like, back with the rotating E. Like those are the ones that exist. They're a website, so it's kind of like a fake thing, but it's like you can't actually rent a unit online, which means they're unsophisticated. So I just wanted to find that first. And so I'm just going to open up my screen and just share an area just that we were just like actually looking at like yesterday. And this
while you do that,
fascinating.
Yeah, while you do that, I'll just say too, go to reiagent.com, sign up for our newsletter, because you will get things like she just said. She just listed off some amazing tips there. We send that out every week, so it summarizes the the content there. So if you're driving around now and can't get to it, definitely do that. I'll also save this for later. Go to YouTube, or I think it's on Spotify and video as well, because she's about to show us her screen.
Yes, big nuggets. So what I like to do is just go to the Googles. It's free, right? And I'm going to put in just Sullivan, Missouri, right? Sullivan, Missouri. And so, it was very just fascinating. Someone just picked this town because it was like 45 minutes from where they currently live. And so this is kind of, the whole area right here. And so what I'll do is I'll just click on nearby. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write self-storage, and I'm going to plus enter. And so what's neat about this is that this is called like the Google Map Pack. And so these are the little dots. These are all the storage facilities in this town. And so, from here, what I like to do is, looking on this main road right here, so here's the website, right? And then here's no website, right? So it's so crazy. Like, how did these facilities make it through COVID? I don't know. It's because they're baby boomers. They don't have to. They're already cash flowing. They're already making a ton of money. Why would they change? That's really what this comes down to. And so why break it? Because it's already working. But what's crazy is you just go on, right? And that's where I just wanted to prove to you, because people talk about it. And it's like, no, there's this really exists out here in this world in commercial real estate. And I think this is the true opportunity at hand right now, is we're in a buyer's market. So let's make this work. So here's central storage. I'm just going to click it. I don't know anything about it, but it's right here on the main road as you enter in this town. No website. Okay, 4.3 stars, 18 reviews, somewhat decent, cover photo at least. And then what's, fascinating, still no website, and so I'm going to take my little man, drop him right here, check it out a little bit. And this looks like a pretty facility. Would you buy this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm like climate controlled. You have a billboard right here. You can definitely tell, they don't even have an area code. That's a mom and pop. Beautiful, clean facility with maybe a little bit of expansion and free marketing all day long. And so this is where I would start the calling, right? And I would start the calling and building the relationship and just having a conversation with this owner, and building up that relationship and seeing if they would ever consider an offer, on their facility. And so I think we make it sound harder than it really is. But from here, people forget boring businesses. We have 8 to 10 different revenue streams, right? So we don't just sell, self-storage units, right? We've got climate control, we've got drive up, we've got, right here, this is an office, which we triple net lease and rent out our office to make more money on top of our facilities when we buy them. And then on top of that, this guy has a billboard that probably pays him monthly. And then I've got a guy, if I bought this, I would put probably 2 more billboards at each quarter to make more money here, and maybe a cell tower. And then you've got tenant protection plans that you're going to upcharge people to have. $12 a unit, $12 every single one, right? So there's lots of different revenue streams. RV and boat, people just forget that boring businesses get to have just as much fun as hotels. It's just not as pretty and beautifully Airbnb eccentric, right? But to me, I'm like, this is beautiful to me. It's simple and it's easy, and I can run it remotely from a call center and a boots on the ground. And I get to do what I want to do with my girl and buy back my time. So I just wanted to share with you guys. I mean, I can go on and on, but I wanted to make this really fast and clean and clear. But you can do this today, in areas that you live. Just think outside the box, right? And that's what I teach, in storage school. It's how do we take these main foundational concepts that we've known for years, even in residential, apply it right to self-storage, and then double down. So
no, it's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I've invested now in a couple of syndications. They've all been mobile home parks, and I bring that up because it's not sexy.
Yes, hands
Storage
down.
units are not sexy, but when you really dig into it and really think about it, I mean, that's the best thing to get into, really. I mean, it is a lot easier. So there's a lot. I'm not going to hate on Airbnbs and everything, but that obviously was a big craze, and there was a lot of hype there, and it is really cool to think. And a lot of people want to buy a property that they're going to go live in. Vacation in as well. So it's going to give them money. It's going to pay for itself. They're going to be able to go to vacation there. But I think, there's a lot of risk there. Like, jurisdictions can change their laws, all that, those kind of things can happen. And whereas if you were to go after something that's not as sexy, like self-storage, like, mobile home parks, that income could then pay for your vacations. You can go wherever you want. That'd be another way to look at it, right? Like, so like treat it
Exactly.
separately. It's like it's a business. And no, that's
And
really awesome.
and I'll say something controversial. It's so funny. I think just like, it's like people bought Peloton in 2020. Like everyone bought a Peloton and a treadmill, and they're like, I'm gonna go use it all the time. It's at my house. No, you're not. You want to go to different places. You know what I mean? But like again, I get the concept of it. And I think it's like, what do you really need? And, is it that lake house? Is it that, X, Y, and Z? But only you can answer that question. It's like, will you actually use X? And then do you need that? Right? Or is it, do you want more, is operations for you something that's important to be remote and something that is, easy and simple? And so that was my, like, I think just a big like epiphany, right? Is like, how do I keep it simple, stupid, really? And again, we'll talk about things that are not like, and I'm very just authentic about, like how this all works. And there's days where I'm like, oh my gosh, but there is also points where it's like, wow, it really is less headaches than some of these other asset classes that, my colleagues, are dabbling in. So we can go down the operational, pathway, or we can kind of go and talk about seller financing, but it all comes down to, your big why, like in asking yourself 5 times, like I did that 5 times, like, what do you really, really want? And for me, I knew I had to buy outside of California, and I knew I wanted, being able to have financial and time freedom for the next like 10 to 15 years and own a portfolio that I can do faster and easier. And that to me, was self-storage. So pick that asset class and just go for it, and stay in your lane. Don't get that shiny object, because that's the biggest thing. Is Alex Hormozi talks about, everyone will have at some point in their, career and life, a woman in the red dress or a man in the tuxedo, right? That like is dangling at you. And when business is profitable, it's crazy how easy that dangle is to get to that next level. So
yeah, no, thanks. And I just wanted to say, like, I'm not saying you can't be successful, and Airbnbs are not a good asset class to get into. It's just a clear different one that is, so it's good to just really understand what the business looks like on a day-to-day, which you've just described. Like, that's one of the huge benefits to you, is being able to be remote, being able to have that time freedom is big for you. So it's definitely understanding all those aspects. And then obviously also what drives the value in these properties. I'm assuming it's also cap rates. So getting really good at the operational side is important, right?
So important. Yeah. So this is a really good question. And so we'll go into some fun numbers. And so like and that was one big thing, is like getting really good at analyzing a deal and underwriting, right? And knowing what a facility is worth, because you never want to overpay. And so like the 2 biggest things I think is that we teach, and it's very important, is, how do you find a good deal, right? And then how do you decrease your risk and structure it so that it works well? And so, a big part to this is like we bought, just like 3 years ago, we bought a $500,000 storage facility, right, with seller financing. And so this property was about 12,000 square feet, 83 units roughly. And what we did with it was that the owner owned it outright. He's like, it was in Louisiana. He's like, I just want to move to the Carolinas and retire. And so we use seller financing. And so we said, hey, we'll buy it for $500,000. With 15% down, so $75K down, which is less than some houses. And then we will pay you 5% interest, on that for 7 years. And so he'll get to make over, like, it was like 680,000 over time. But that decreased our risk with seller financing. And then what's beautiful about this is we pay him, I know this because it goes straight from our bank account, $2,300 a month, right? And then we get to cash flow the rest. So what we did here was raise rates about 35%. And so, what we've done with this facility is we buy it, right, for $500,000 with 75K down. And our goal is to sell it of spring 2027 for about 1.2 million, about a 7.5, 8 cap range. And so the whole goal, from getting it from $500,000 to 1.2, and it doesn't, maybe people are like, oh, that sounds like a small number, but guess what we're going to do is 1031, go take it to a bigger deal, right? And that's the whole goal, is how do you build your net worth and how do you build your net wealth and cycle that. But the things that you do to take commercial real estate, because residential is all on comps, right? No matter how nice my marble kitchen looks, your house is going to be based on the comps of that neighborhood. In businesses, they go based on your gross income, right? And it's like your gross income and your NOI divided by your cap rate is your purchase price. And so how do you increase your NOI over time? How do you increase your net operating income? And so for us, what we did was, it was like a 35% increase, maybe a 40 now, decrease our expenses a little bit to 30%, make it lean, make it automated, put a website on there. We did tenant protection plans. We have security cameras up, and we added portable units along the fence line to add some more income there. And so it was, I would say, an easier lift, I would say. And then in 4 years, we'll go out there and sell it to 1031. So that's just an example, on what is possible. You could also refinance and go do it again, right? There's multiple different ways to exit. But I think just the answer to your question is, how do you find value, right? And right now, I'm really getting into, back in the day in 2020, I mean, people were just searching for good deals where they can just increase the rates. Like, cool, that's not creative, but it worked, because in 2020, everything worked. Now it's like, how do you take a good deal and make it great, right? And so how do you make a good deal, add revenue on top of that, and then add additional revenues down the line? And then dangle a little carrot, keep some on there because you want to go exit and sell it or refinance to go do it again. So that's kind of how we teach, is like, that's the value that you get to add in self-storage, and how we like to look at, buy it, for what it's worth today, negotiate it, and then take it to, 2x or however much you want to push based on the runway.
Yeah. When I started in real estate, there was kind of went to my broker and asked about, hey, somebody's asking about, seller financing, and they're like, I don't mess with it. I don't think you should even touch it. And I was like, why? I said, well, if they can't get qualified by a bank, why are you going to mess with them? Why are you going to deal with them as clients? But it is such a win-win opportunity. And yeah, when you're looking at this kind of space, you want to look into the win-win. So when something's on the market, there are going to be other people that need to 1031 money, and I think that's often why we're seeing a lot of these commercial properties maybe still selling for numbers that don't really make sense, because the people need to put that money into something. They're 1031ing money away, and so they're saving on the taxes, and maybe we're accepting a slightly less of a great deal. And then when you're going off market, like you're talking about, finding the mom and pops who want to retire, and they don't want to have this big capital gain hit when they sell. And so that's where that owner financing becomes such a win-win. You can negotiate terms a lot of different ways that you can figure this out in so many different ways, which makes it so exciting. Like you could maybe put it on a 50-year note if you wanted to. Yep. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but you don't have to follow the rules that the banks have created, and you can find what makes most sense for both parties. So sometimes having less money down so they don't have that capital gains hit is also still a win-win for them. If you can still make it cash flow, and make sure your operating expenses are, really well documented, like that's a great win-win for you and potentially, right? So it's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll just put like a bow on this too. And this is, I think we're in a really sweet spot, and we have no crystal ball. I'm no, how do I say it, like CPA or anything like that. But I do think we are in this buyer's market where, rates have a little bit gone up, and we don't know where they're going to go, and they haven't moved in a while. Commercial real estate, we follow residential, and it's slower actually. And so we're in this sweet spot where it's been 5 years, rates are refixing pulling from people's loans. And people are like, I want to retire. I've been waiting with my hands, like sitting on my hands for 3 years, and they want offers. And so we've been getting more, putting out more offers. Like I put 6 offers out last week. More offers we've been putting out now than we have in the past like 24 months. And it's because these interest rates are allowing us to be creative and think with seller financing and get more creative. People are open to looking at that now. And so just like you said, the 3 reasons, if you haven't heard, like seller financing is, they normally own it outright. And so they get to be the bank, right? And so that helps us in multiple ways, is where, decreases our risk a little bit more because it's backed by the property, not the bank. And then number 2, we get to look at terms over time that allows us as a business owner to cash flow more. And that's, that's rule number 1 in business, is like, we need cash flow. Cash flow is king. And so that's a really important part. And then the biggest thing is, it's not always about price, right? It's about who's going to take over the business the best way, how much money they'll get at the total of that 7-year balloon. And then number 3, how do they not pay Uncle Sam? Like I hear this all the time, right? How do I reduce my, capital gains if I get $1 million all at one time? Like that's a lot. You're going to be paying a lot of money in taxes all the time, like if you just get that big lump sum. So I just have been, moral of the story is, be creative, think outside the box, and start that conversation. And the person that starts that conversation and is able to communicate that clearly and the benefits to the seller is going to win. And that's the cheat code there.
Well, and you kind of alluded to it as well, but I mean, these are often these people's like whole lives. I mean, like this can be like somebody's like, their baby.
Biggest transaction they've done in a long time. Yeah. Business baby.
And so that relationship thing that you're building, that you're talking to them, you're focused on the relationship, you're not just spamming them with things. That is part of it, because like you said, like that's important. Like they want to have that torch be carried on. They don't want to just sell out to some commercial thing that's gonna, I don't know. So that's important as well.
And I'll make one, plug. Like we just had a storage school student purchase a 10,000 square foot property. So literally same size as ours, on a seller financing deal in Texas, made the relationship, and he worked with them for about 5 months. And he was able to get $90,000 is the price, put 10% down, $9,000 down, and is a 5-year balloon. And so like it really changed my mindset about building relationships and taking your time and not just spraying people, but really, building that relationship up. And it's not always about price, but it's about, what is that win-win for everyone there. And so that owner just wanted to kind of like say, give it to someone who's actually going to help in the community, and they wanted to go on their merry way. So it's just very fascinating. $9,000 is like, less than, I don't even know, a house, mobile home, who even knows at this point. But I live in California, so my eyes are skewed a little bit. So I was just like, it's just, I think these things, when people say you have to have all this money to get in commercial real estate, you have to have all this money to buy self-storage, I really think that's the limiting belief that really just stops people. Because I hear in the DMs, like I talk to people all day long, and they're like, Bree, I've been thinking about buying storage for 10 years or 8 years. And the first question I ask is like, why haven't you done it? Like, why haven't you done it? And they kind of like, because I need a lot of money, right? Or like, I don't know how to find a deal. And so, but the needing the money part really gets people hung up for some reason. Mm-hmm. And it did for me in the beginning. Like it was one more zero to my first house that I bought. But at the same time, like if it's a good deal and it cash flows, like you're going to be able to take that opportunity to a doctor or someone who doesn't have that opportunity and say, hey, do you want to make money together? Like, let's go. Right. And so that gives you leverage in the upper hand. And I think that's what a lot of your real estate agents that listen to this podcast, like that's your opportunity right now is to use your voice and to, be different and to build relationships authentically and to think outside the box. And that's how deals are going to be had, I think, right now in this market. And that's how you have to think.
100%. One other point I wanted to make from what you had mentioned before is like, the exit strategy can be to sell. So you're looking to do the value add stuff to increase the value, et cetera. But you also mentioned that you could do a cash out refinance that deal. um, that's tax free. You can turn around and do whatever you want to then with that money tax
Yeah.
free. So you could roll that into another deal if you wanted to. You could, go buy that
So
vacation maybe.
what's cool, and like we always say, like there's two strategies, right? Like you have to think every deal you buy in real estate, it's your how do you enter and how do you want to exit? Like you have to have a plan. And people that don't have a plan, they're just making a wish, right? And that's not good either. But the guy that I just talked about bought it for $90,000, 9K down. Within 36 months, he will be able to either sell at 300K at like an 8.5 cap, or he'll be able to take about $120,000 out, somewhere around there, and then not kill the pig, keep the pig going, and go buy another one
Yeah.
in that market. And so those are the two opportunities, to grow your net worth and to build that portfolio. Because to be honest, it's not just one facility that would probably change your life. It's probably 1 to 3, right? Depending on the size that it takes, for you and what your real monthly, like goal is for income in your family. So yeah, those are just two thought processes that I very much like teach and preach, is like, how do you make sure this grows? And then how do you do it in a way that is beneficial to what you really, really want, and not just like a fantasy?
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, you've talked about it a little bit. I want to get into it a little bit more, but talk some about how you are, pursuing this, trying to live intentionally, trying to not lose sight of what's important, et cetera. Like what's the point of, accumulating all this wealth if, you die alone, unhealthy, and sad,
Right. Yeah. No,
your approach to life.
I love that, because we were talking a little bit about this, and I think the summer brings up a lot of just like, hey, what do you want, right? And so I think for me, I've been really dabbling in that. And I think you have to always reinvent yourself. That's what's so cool about life, is like you're growing, you're reinventing yourself. And I'm doing that constantly. And so, for me, that's even just getting into storage in general was two things that I define as success is like easy mornings with my daughter. And I was telling Mateus that we do hot tub Wednesdays. So easy mornings with her, hot tub Wednesdays in the morning before, going to school. And then being able to lay my head on the pillow and sleep well, and not feel like I either like can't either make ends meet, or there's toilets breaking at like 1 a.m. Like that's, to me, not like exciting. It's like that actually gives me more anxiety. So those are two, like elements that I always think about. And then, for me, really defining this, it's not the bigger the portfolio. Like I think we're all rethinking this and seeing some of the syndications. I'm just saying some do really, really well, and we're seeing some fall apart. And it's because they created their own beast. Like they were the more to the masses, feed the beast, bigger the amount of doors or square feet you have, the win. And in that case, it's not always 100% true. Like for me, it's more about, I buy 2 to 5 good self-storage deals every single year, and I'm creating a boutique, storage equity firm for myself and my family. And so I love partnering with my self-storage school students. I love also creating that for them, because I think that's really what we're here to do, is to have a life on purpose and to have life options. And not just create like another job, right? I don't mean you still have to hustle. Like you still got to put in the work and like work. And do things that are uncomfortable, because I do it every single day, and trust me, it does not always feel great. But at the same time, I think there's also a point of burnout and push, culture that I don't want to go after. I'm like, it's not worth it to me. So that's what I'm kind of like really right now redefining is, I found the vehicle, I found self-storage, which is the asset class. And now how do I want to do it? And not be about all the money, right? Because you can always compound your money elsewhere too. But how do you work smarter and not harder? And so that was something like a book, if you haven't read it, 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan. And this concept is something that I'm really thinking about right now.
I love it. Yeah, it's so true. Like, I mean, one of the things I preach on the show is the goal of getting to be, having your expenses covered through your investments, and it's a lofty goal. I mean, definitely it's possible in various routes, and this is certainly one of them that could be really beneficial to people. But I think there's always a time where, or every agent that's been in the business for enough time, they're going to have ups and downs. They're going to have various stressors, and it's really easy when the times are really good to want to just kind of expect that to happen forever, and just to kind of have increase your lifestyle, that kind of stuff. If you take the approach of first increasing your passive income to a point where you can then start increasing your lifestyle based on well, I got a new deal that brings in X amount a month, maybe I can afford this new other thing or whatever. I think that's an approach that makes you able to sleep better at night, right? You can choose, maybe you can be more selective with the people you work with in your real estate business. Maybe you don't want to deal with certain people that just keep you up at night. You can more easily fire those negative clients because you don't need their money. And so it's a great thing, and it's really good it just takes a little bit of intentionality to plan, to think through, to not just let life happen to you, so that you can, what's a realtor in the summer able to travel for a month like that?
Teacher summer, I call it the teacher summer. I want a teacher summer, which is what we try to do. But I agree. Like, I think it's that, people talk about the 2 rules in real estate investing, which is like, what is it? Live below your means, right? And invest often. It's like the 2 big things. I can't remember who created that. I did not, but I always definitely try to live with that, which is like live below your means and invest often, right? And I think what I've been thinking about, because it is important, they first want to go to that part of like, how do I cover my expenses and live, day to day and not worry about it based on your investments. But I think the biggest shift that I'm making into now is, how do we compound, right? How do you leverage and use your asset classes to compound your capital smartly? That's not a word, but in the most peaceful way. Like, that to me right there it's like less is more. How do you compound, which I don't think a lot of people talk about. I think it's all about, financial freedom. And to me, I don't know why that triggers me so much, but it does. Financial freedom. I see cars and I don't know, the trips, and I'm like, cool. But how are you thinking smarter? And that's what I want to just and this is me thinking outside the box and me getting kind of woo because I'm going through a lot of this right now. But how do you compound that money and leverage it the right way, where you don't have to work harder, but you're working smarter with your money over the long haul for your family?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The other piece that I just wanted to touch on, we don't really have to get into it. I know you're not an accountant, but should also be
far away.
Tax advantages for these kind of investments as well. So that's another bonus. I think when you are thinking about the realtor 401k, if you will, investing in different properties, you can take tax advantages from them as well. So definitely check with your CPA about that as well as you're making plans to do these things. But it's just to me, it's just a no brainer.
And for people that aren't thinking about this, I guess, so in commercial real estate, you can do cost segregations, or bonus segregations, studies on the businesses that you own. And honestly, the top ones they say are self-storage, mobile home parks, and RV parks right now for some reason, because there's a lot of things that you can depreciate. But how we like to use it is it's a cherry on top. We always say it's a cherry on top. And I'm no CPA, so talk to your CPA. But how we like to do it is we've got a triangle, right? So if we think about wealth, it's we want cash flow, to live off of and to invest often. And then we have your net worth that you're growing. And then that bonus on top of that triad is your depreciation. How are you depreciating so that you can work smarter, which means you don't, it helps offset taxes. It can help do all these X, Y, and Z's for your family. And so, and everyone's different, but honestly, you can play that game, and it's a legal game that they've made for us. They've set up for us. Mm-hmm. And I think people that have not really thought about that, yet, should do it right now. But, I think that's an important piece that, I call it a cherry on the top because it's true, right? You should be already making it with those 2 other items, but it's how do we add a cherry on top to just push you, right, to 10x you a little bit more?
Yeah. And being a real estate professional, allows you to write off your, again, I'm not an accountant, so definitely double check with yours, but allows you to write off your commission. So like you can, like a doctor would not be able to write off their salary with if they were wanting to invest in one of these. They could typically take off the income they earn passively, et cetera. They could write off that, but they couldn't do their own income. But as a real estate professional, you can. So it's really huge. And if you, to give you a small example, and I've said this a couple of times, but we invested $50,000 into a mobile home syndication. And the first year, we actually only owned it for like a month at this time, but we got a K1 of like $66,000 we were able to write off of our income off of a $50,000 investment. So like that's a huge benefit to our finances and it wasn't as good the next year, but there was still like another 12 or whatever. So, I mean, it was, still a great thing. And if you kind of repeat and invest in more and more of these things, that will just, continue to get better that those savings will continue to come in.
Yes, hands down. Absolutely. And I'm laughing right now because I can't help myself, but I'm always thinking, I'm like, there should be like a dating website or some type of fun podcast with about like high net worth individual, like doctors with like real estate professionals, right? It's like, how do we match these up so that like, but I'm just laughing about this because I'm like, I'm sure it exists, but if you don't know, there's a joke in real estate. It's like, go marry a, high net worth doctor and help each other out, right? Obviously that's not true. Make sure you're like very well equipped for a good relationship long-term, but there is a joke in this industry. And I smile every single time about it. I laugh.
Or some people were doing the whole Airbnb loophole as well, if they could.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, you've already given us tons of gold nuggets, but I just wanted to check if you have any gold nuggets for us now.
Yeah. So I honestly, I think from that, it's just more, it's figuring out, right? It's like, what is that asset that you truly, want to double down in and go there. Don't spread yourself, thin, just go like a mile deep. And then I think, from that, it's like, you have a question, right? Do you personally want to own it? Right? Do you want to own it and manage it and do all those items and have that ability to do it, which you can, or do you want to go place your capital with someone that's going to do it for you? Right. So those are the two biggest pieces to that puzzle. But I very much think that, if you are in the season of like, for me, as a W-2 employee, cubicle world, state worker, I wanted more. Like I wanted not just a monthly paycheck, like I wanted something more that I can like just live this like abnormal life, right? Not like the ones on Instagram, but like how I wanted to do it, right? So, and I'm a rebel. I don't want someone telling me, what I can and can't do. But that's, I think the biggest part is, finding someone of that asset class and plugging yourself in, right? And that's the biggest thing is how you can do this is, go find, a community or someone that you resonate with that's only 5 places above you. Like, don't go find a guru that charges you $1 million, but it's like, go find someone, plug yourself in, and then, go after it, right? Like, be relentless. And it's going to not feel great in the beginning, but it's worth it. And so that's what I, have very much done my whole entire life, to learn something, and to do it exceptionally well is like, I don't know all the answers, nor do I want to read about all the answers and go through YouTube University. I want to find someone that's actually doing it and putting, their mouths to that money and making it work. So yeah, that's kind of like my little, spill of kind of like what I've done and done faster. And I'm grateful now. Like I put my, house on the line. I did all these things when I was pregnant. And 5 years later, being able to build up a self-storage portfolio and get to live this life. I'm very grateful that I went all in, but it did not feel comfortable in the beginning. Yeah. And my family questioned every single thing. They thought I was absolutely insane. So sometimes you have to be a little bit insane in order to, reap those benefits. But I just think my biggest part is you're worth it. And if a 75, 80-year-old can run a self-storage facility on a yellow pad piece of paper with tallies on their unit mix and do in cash flow, like you can do it too, especially now with AI. Like that's, I think the biggest part is don't overcomplicate it. Keep things simple. And if you see, some value to be had, and then you can operate it better than what's currently going on, which a lot of baby boomers are moving out that way, go out there and buy it and do it, take it down, make it happen. So that's my thoughts.
I love it. And then you already mentioned 10x is better than
Mhm.
2x. What about, do you have any other favorite books or fundamental books you think everybody should read?
Right now, I am reading I actually I'm rereading them. It's 10x is easier than 2x, and the other one that I'm reading is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And I think I'm rereading them this year because I feel like I get new things out of them. But I really think it's a time where you're like, cool, I don't want to spin my wheels. And I feel a lot of us are just spinning our wheels doing things on routine, or because they're, want to do X, Y, and Z because the other person next door is doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, how do you really want to do it? And how can we do it faster and smarter? So those are my favorite 2 books right now. And then just for fun, I'm reading, it's called The 7 Husbands. So I guess it's really, really good. It's on like this like high book readers list. And it's a fun, just like not work related book, but it's so good. It's like understanding this female based on all the 7 husbands and the gossip. So definitely check it out too.
Erica always has to have a not intense book to
Yes.
a pleasure
Yep.
book.
I agree. I'm all about it.
Yeah. So then finally, where could people find you on social media, websites, et cetera, if they want to learn more?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Bree.theinvestor. So it's just BREE.theinvestor. I'm over there. That's me. So definitely come say hi. I love when people like say hi. I can put like a face, to who they are. And then, I know I wanted to give this just like to your listeners here, but I wanted to give you guys like a playbook. So it's a self-storage deal finding cheat sheet as well as a storage calculator. So if you guys do want that, you can either send me a DM on Instagram just with the word playbook, or you can send it just as a text message to my business phone at 916-579-7209 and just say, hey, I heard you on the Real Estate Agent podcast. Sorry, the Real Estate Agent podcast, and I want the self-storage playbook, and I'll send that right your way.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. You've given us lots to think about, a lot of good information. Again, if you are on the go listening to this, definitely go to reiagent.com later to get the newsletter so you can get this summarized. We do also have all the episodes as blogs, so you can read them if you want, if you prefer. All the links would be on there as well. But yeah, again, Bree, thank you so much for being on the show. You're motivating me. I want to start like calling some local self-storage places.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.